Ogilvy on Advertising by David Ogilvy. Advertising is a ruthless battlefield, and if you don't understand its rules, you will fail. David Ogilvy, one of the greatest advertising minds of all time, wrote this book not to entertain, but to teach you how to sell. Forget the fluff. Forget the nonsense about creativity for creativity's sake. Advertising exists to make money, and the only metric that matters is effectiveness. This book distills decades of experience into hard-hitting principles, showing you how to craft ads that move people to action. Whether you are a copywriter, an agency executive, or a business owner, Ogilvy's lessons strip away illusion and reveal the brutal truth. Most ads fail because they are built on ego rather than psychology. You must learn how to understand your audience, speak their language, and persuade them to buy. If you follow these principles, you will thrive. If you ignore them, you will waste time and money producing ads that don't work. Lesson 1. Sell or die. If your ad doesn't sell, it's worthless. No one cares how clever, artistic, or groundbreaking it is. Creativity without sales is indulgence, and indulgence has no place in business. Advertising exists for one reason: to move people to action, to get them to buy, to drive measurable results. David Ogilvy understood this better than anyone, and his legendary Rolls-Royce ad from 1958 proved it. He didn't rely on vague emotions or abstract notions of luxury. He found a single compelling fact buried in technical reports. At 60 miles an hour, the loudest noise in this new Rolls-Royce comes from the electric clock. That one sentence sold more cars than an entire industry's worth of overproduced, creatively bloated campaigns. It worked because it understood the psychology of the buyer. It spoke to engineers and perfectionists, to those who valued precision and quality. The message was clear. This was not just a luxury car. It was a machine of such flawless craftsmanship that the only sound was time itself. Compare that to modern advertising, where vague branding campaigns and so-called creative commercials win industry awards while failing to move a single product. Look at Pepsi's disastrous Kendall Jenner ad. It was a textbook case of creativity without strategy, an empty gesture masquerading as social consciousness that backfired spectacularly. It didn't sell Pepsi. It didn't connect with the audience. It was designed for viral attention, not for conversion. And in the world of advertising, attention without action is meaningless. Contrast that with Coca-Cola, a brand that has stayed relentlessly focused on selling. Their Share a Coke campaign worked not because it was artistic, but because it directly involved the consumer, putting their names on bottles, making the purchase personal, and creating instant engagement. Sales soared. History proves this lesson over and over again. In the 1920s, Claude Hopkins wrote scientific advertising and revolutionized the industry by treating ads like controlled experiments. He tested headlines, measured results, and discarded anything that didn't generate sales. His work laid the foundation for Ogilvy's approach decades later. The best brands don't guess, they test. The most effective campaigns aren't built on gut feeling, but on hard data. Every word, every image, and every offer should be designed to answer one question: does this make people buy? Look at Amazon. Jeff Bezos built an empire not by making cool ads, but by obsessing over what customers actually want. Their advertising, from sponsored product placements to algorithmically optimized email campaigns, isn't designed to entertain. It's designed to convert. Bezos famously said, "We are not competitor-obsessed, we are customer-obsessed." And that is the key. The moment your advertising becomes about impressing other marketers rather than serving your audience, you've already lost. Even Hollywood follows this principle. A bad trailer can sink a movie before it even hits theaters. The most effective trailers don't just showcase beautiful cinematography, they sell the core experience of the film. When The Dark Knight launched its viral marketing campaign, it didn't waste time on generic posters. It created an immersive world, using hidden clues and interactive puzzles to sell the idea that this was more than just a movie. It was an event. It built anticipation, it engaged the audience, and it drove box office sales to record-breaking levels. The lesson is simple but ruthless. If your marketing doesn't produce measurable revenue, it has failed. Art for art's sake has a place in museums, not in advertising. Forget what industry peers think. Stop trying to be clever. Focus on the consumer. Study what they respond to. Frame your message in terms of what they value, not what you think looks impressive. The only metric that matters is whether your ad moves people to buy. If it doesn't, kill it and start over. Period. Lesson 2. Research beats genius. Genius doesn't exist in advertising. Only rigorous research and disciplined execution do. The myth of the lone creative genius, effortlessly producing world-changing ideas in a moment of inspiration, is just that, a myth. Success in advertising doesn't come from flashes of brilliance. It comes from knowing your audience better than they know themselves. Ogilvy understood this and built his empire on data, not intuition. He spent weeks, sometimes months, studying customer behavior before writing a single word. He absorbed George Gallup's research on consumer psychology, recognizing that great campaigns aren't born from gut feelings, but from cold, hard facts. One of Ogilvy's most famous campaigns, the Hathaway shirt ad, wasn't just a clever idea. It was the result of meticulous research into what makes people perceive authority and distinction. Instead of dressing his model in yet another typical suit and tie combination, he added a single unexpected detail: an eye patch. The result was a striking, unforgettable image that intrigued consumers. Why was this man wearing an eye patch? Was he an adventurer? A war hero? The campaign didn't just showcase the product, it created a persona, a story, a reason for people to stop and look. And more importantly, it worked. Hathaway became one of the best-selling shirts in America practically overnight. The eye patch wasn't a gimmick, it was a psychological trigger. Backed by research into how the human mind responds to symbols of authority and mystery. Compare this disciplined approach to the way most modern advertising operates. Brands today chase trends, mimicking whatever is currently viral without understanding why it works. They create campaigns based on what feels right, not what is proven to work. Look at the endless parade of failed Super Bowl commercials. Ads that cost millions but leave no lasting impression because they prioritize humor, spectacle, or celebrity appearances over actual persuasion. These campaigns may entertain, but they don't sell. Contrast that with Procter & Gamble's Thank You for Mom campaign, built on deep research into emotional triggers. P&G didn't rely on a creative hunch. It studied what resonates with consumers, specifically mothers, and crafted a campaign rooted in data-backed emotional appeal. The result? A direct increase in sales and brand loyalty that lasted well beyond the Olympics it was designed to promote. History confirms this lesson repeatedly. In 1931, James Webb Young wrote a technique for producing ideas, arguing that creativity is not divine inspiration, but a structured process rooted in research. The best ideas come from immersion in facts, patterns, and human behavior. Steve Jobs, often mistaken for a pure creative visionary, was in reality a master researcher. He didn't invent the MP3 player or the smartphone. He studied what was wrong with existing products, understood what consumers actually wanted, and ruthlessly refined the user experience. Apple's success wasn't based on gut instinct. It was based on studying human behavior and designing around it. This is the difference between those who succeed in advertising and those who fail. The best marketers don't guess what will work. They test, analyze, and adjust based on real-world data. Look at Facebook and Google. Their ad platforms dominate because they don't rely on creativity alone. They run thousands of A/B tests, optimizing every campaign in real time. They understand that the words, images, and calls to action that work best aren't determined by artistic opinion, but by measurable, research-driven results. Meanwhile, countless businesses pour money into ad campaigns that look good but aren't tested, only to wonder why they don't see a return on investment. If you want to create advertising that works, stop chasing inspiration and start studying psychology, behavior, and market data. Read research reports, analyze consumer patterns, ask questions, run tests, and refine everything. Write for your audience, not for yourself. The most successful ad in the world isn't the one that wins awards. It's the one that drives sales. You either understand your customer or you don't. If you don't, you will fail. Lesson 3, clarity wins. Confused people don't buy. The best ads are brutally clear, cutting through noise with a single, irresistible idea. Every second of ambiguity costs you sales. If a customer has to pause and decode your message, you've already lost them. David Ogilvy despised vagueness and labeled it the disease of modern advertising. Weak marketers believe that being clever is the key to persuasion. But nothing persuades like clarity. Consumers are overwhelmed with information, bombarded by thousands of marketing messages every day. If your ad isn't simple, direct, and immediately understandable, it will disappear into the noise. Ogilvy's campaign for Schweppes is a masterclass in clarity. Instead of using a vague, overused descriptor like refreshing, he introduced a tangible, authoritative figure, Commander Edward Whitehead, an actual executive with a distinctively British look and commanding presence. The message was unmistakable. This was the premium choice for sophisticated drinkers. People didn't have to wonder what Schweppes stood for. The clarity of the branding worked, and sales surged. This is the same principle that makes strong political campaigns successful. Look at Barack Obama's 2008 slogan, "Yes, we can." 3 simple words, unmistakable in their meaning, impossible to misinterpret. Compare that to the convoluted messaging of losing campaigns, where politicians try to appeal to everyone and end up saying nothing of substance. Clarity wins. Modern branding often fails because it prioritizes aesthetics over function. Too many companies think that an abstract tagline or an artsy visual will do the heavy lifting, but if the message isn't immediately clear, the campaign fails. Look at Coca-Cola's Open Happiness. Simple, powerful, universal. Now compare it to the disaster of Pepsi's Kendall Jenner ad, which tried to reference social justice, but ended up being so vague and tone-deaf that it alienated its audience. Pepsi wanted to be relevant, but their lack of clarity turned the ad into a meaningless spectacle that did more harm than good. Apple has always understood the power of clarity. Look at their early ads. Simple images of their products with a direct message. Nothing more. The original iPod campaign didn't drown consumers in technical specifications. It said, 1,000 songs in your pocket. That's it. No jargon, no fluff, just a clear value proposition. Compare that to companies that get lost in their own complexity, stuffing their marketing with unnecessary details that no one cares about. Tesla's advertising, despite almost no traditional marketing spend, has worked in the same way. Elon Musk doesn't talk about kilowatt hours or range anxiety in a convoluted way. He simply frames Tesla as the future of transportation. The clarity of that vision has driven demand. This lesson extends beyond advertising. Great storytelling, great leadership, and great persuasion all rely on clarity. Steve Jobs was famous for demanding simplicity in everything Apple produced. When his team presented the original iPhone's interface, it had a complicated set of navigation options. Jobs rejected it outright. He told them, "It needs to be so simple that a 6-year-old can use it." That insistence on clarity made Apple products intuitive, and that intuitive design made them irresistible. The same principle applies to business communication. If you can't explain what your company does in one sentence, you don't understand it well enough. Jeff Bezos understood this when building Amazon, famously saying, "If you can't feed a team with 2 pizzas, the team is too big." Every great business leader operates with the same rule. Cut the clutter, remove unnecessary complexity, and say what you mean. Ogilvy knew that great advertising was built like great journalism. No wasted words, no meaningless phrases, just hard-hitting facts that drive action. He advised his copywriters to write their ads and then cut 50% of the words. If it was still understandable, they were required to cut 50% again. The result? Ads that had no fluff, no distractions, just clear, powerful messaging that got results. Apply the same discipline. Cut every word that doesn't sell. Every time you write a marketing message, ask yourself, could a 10-year-old understand this in 5 seconds? If not, rewrite it. Your audience isn't sitting down with a dictionary trying to decipher your meaning. They're scrolling, distracted, moving fast. You either capture their attention with clarity or you disappear. Lesson 4, the power of headlines. 5 times as many people read the headline as the body copy. If your headline fails, nothing else matters. This is not an exaggeration. It's a fundamental truth of advertising, journalism, and content marketing. Ogilvy knew this because he studied newspapers obsessively, dissecting which headlines got attention and why. He understood that human attention is fragile, and in a world overflowing with distractions, the first few words are all you have to hook someone. If your headline doesn't stop them in their tracks, the rest of your message is invisible. Great headlines create curiosity, urgency, and an irresistible promise of value. When Ogilvy wrote an ad for a hotel chain, he didn't settle for a generic line like luxury accommodations available. That would have blended into the noise of 1,000 other forgettable ads. Instead, he crafted something that immediately sparked curiosity: how to vacation like a millionaire on a middle-class budget. That single line carried the entire ad. It spoke directly to the reader's desire for luxury while offering an unexpected solution. It made them stop, think, and want to read more. That's what a great headline does. It grabs attention and forces engagement. This principle applies across industries. Look at how the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal write their headlines. They are specific, intriguing, and often make a bold claim. Now compare that to modern digital media giants like BuzzFeed, which mastered the art of clickbait. Headlines like, "You won't believe what happens next," or "This one simple trick changed everything," are engineered to exploit curiosity gaps. While these tactics can sometimes feel cheap, they work because they make readers need to know what follows. The best marketers understand that curiosity is a psychological trigger. The moment a person feels that they are missing out on important information, they are compelled to seek closure. This is not a new idea. The legendary copywriter John Caples proved its power decades ago with his famous headline, "They laughed when I sat down at the piano, but when I started to play." This wasn't just a sentence, it was a mini-story that demanded resolution. Why did they laugh? What happened when he started playing? The only way to find out was to keep reading. This single ad ran for years because it hooked people immediately. Social media and digital marketing have only amplified the importance of headlines. Every tweet, every YouTube video title, and every email subject line is a headline. If people don't click, you lose. Look at YouTube's top creators, Mr. Beast, for example. His videos don't have vague, artistic titles. They have headlines designed to grab attention instantly. "I spent 50 hours in solitary confinement," or "I gave a homeless man $1 million. Every title forces curiosity. You want to know what happened? So you click. That's not luck. That's mastery of human psychology. Take this into business. Look at Apple's product launches. When they introduced the iPod, they didn't say, "New MP3 player available." They said, "1,000 songs in your pocket." That's a headline. It's short, clear, and immediately conveys why it matters. When Tim Ferriss launched his bestseller, The 4-Hour Workweek, the title alone made it a success. It wasn't called "How to Improve Your Productivity." It made a direct, almost unbelievable promise in 4 words. That's the power of a great headline. If you can't write compelling headlines, you will never succeed in advertising. Headlines are not just an afterthought. They determine whether your message gets read at all. Every ad, article, or sales page lives or dies based on its first few words. You must master this skill. Study the greatest headlines of all time. Test different variations. Write 50 headlines for every one you use. If your headline doesn't make someone stop, think, and want to know more, you've already lost. Lesson 5. Visuals must sell. A bad visual kills an ad faster than bad copy. You can have the most persuasive message in the world, but if your visuals are weak, irrelevant, or confusing, your ad is already dead. David Ogilvy understood this better than anyone. He despised irrelevant imagery, pictures that looked good but did nothing to drive sales. He believed every visual should reinforce the message, not distract from it. Advertising is not fine art. It exists to sell. If your image doesn't contribute to that goal, it's a waste of space. The Hathaway shirt ad proves this point. Ogilvy didn't use flashy colors, dramatic backgrounds, or over-the-top styling. He used a simple black and white photo of a man in a Hathaway shirt wearing a single, unexpected detail, an eye patch. That one visual element transformed the entire campaign. It created mystery. It forced the viewer to ask questions. Why was this man wearing an eye patch? Was he an adventurer? A war hero? A rogue businessman? The image suggested a story, and that story created intrigue. Sales skyrocketed. That's how a visual sells. It enhances the message, reinforces the brand identity, and makes the viewer stop and pay attention. Compare that to most modern advertising. Too many brands throw in random visuals with no connection to the product. Luxury brands are the worst offenders. They often feature models staring blankly into space, looking bored or indifferent, standing in sterile, lifeless settings. This is supposed to manufacture mystery and sophistication, but in reality, it just creates disconnect. There's no story, no persuasion, no emotional hook. A strong visual should make you feel something: aspiration, excitement, curiosity. It should make you want to own the product. Nike understands this principle better than anyone. Every image in their advertising screams action and movement. You don't just see someone wearing their shoes. You see an athlete mid-stride, pushing through exhaustion, chasing victory. Their visuals don't just show the product, they show the result of using the product. That's why their ads are powerful. They don't just tell you to buy, they make you want to be part of the lifestyle they're selling. The same applies to Red Bull. Every visual in their marketing is about energy, adrenaline, extreme sports. You don't see a can of Red Bull sitting on a table. You see someone skydiving, surfing a giant wave, or racing down a mountain. The message is crystal clear. This is not just a drink. It's fuel for the extraordinary. The importance of persuasive visuals extends beyond advertising. Filmmakers, journalists, and even politicians understand this. Look at the most iconic images in history. Neil Armstrong stepping onto the moon, Muhammad Ali standing over Sonny Liston, the Tank Man in Tiananmen Square. These images don't need explanations. They tell an entire story in a single frame. Great advertising visuals work the same way. They should communicate your message instantly without needing excess explanation. Steve Jobs mastered this concept with Apple's product launches. When he unveiled the iPhone in 2007, he didn't flood the screen with technical details. He showed a single image, one device with a clean, elegant design and a simple tagline: "This is only the beginning." That image sold millions of phones before people even understood what the iPhone could do. Simplicity in visuals is a weapon. Too many brands clutter their ads with unnecessary elements: background noise, complicated graphics, distractions that dilute the message. The best visuals are clean, sharp, and instantly meaningful. If your visuals don't reinforce your sales pitch, replace them. Every image in your ad should have a reason to be there. Does it make the product more desirable? Does it tell a story that compels action? Does it trigger an emotion that aligns with your brand? If the answer is no, cut it. Advertising is about persuasion, not decoration. A great image can sell a product without a single word, but a bad image can destroy even the best written copy. Your visuals must do more than look good. They must sell. Lesson 7. Don't bore people. The worst sin in advertising is being boring. No one owes you attention. You must earn it. Every day, people are bombarded with thousands of marketing messages, and most of them are ignored. If your ad is forgettable, it's worthless. David Ogilvy understood this better than anyone. He didn't just write ads. He crafted stories, headlines, and visuals that made people stop, pay attention, and care. His ads didn't feel like ads. They felt like news articles, personal insights, or gripping narratives. They entertained, educated, and engaged before they sold. That's why they worked. Take the legendary Rolls-Royce campaign. It wasn't just another luxury car ad. It was a piece of storytelling. At 60 miles an hour, the loudest noise in this new Rolls-Royce comes from the electric clock. That line wasn't just clever. It was intriguing. It made the reader pause. It painted a picture of elegance, silence, and mechanical perfection. It wasn't a sales pitch. It was a fascinating fact pulled straight from Rolls-Royce's own engineering reports. The ad felt like an inside scoop, a hidden gem of knowledge. And because it was interesting, it sold cars. Great advertising follows the same principles as great storytelling. Look at the best filmmakers. Hitchcock used suspense. Tarantino used surprise. Pixar uses deep emotion. These techniques keep audiences engaged, and they work in advertising too. When Apple launched the iPhone in 2007, Steve Jobs didn't start with a list of technical specs. He built suspense. He teased the audience. Every once in a while, a revolutionary product comes along that changes everything. He made them lean in, anticipate, and feel like they were about to witness history. That's why Apple's marketing doesn't just sell products, it creates movements. Compare this to the lifeless, formulaic ads most companies put out today. Corporate jargon, bland messaging, and forgettable visuals dominate the landscape. Introducing our new state-of-the-art solution means nothing. A faster, better way to work is meaningless. These ads are safe, generic, and worst of all, boring. No one reads them, no one shares them, no one cares. That's why they fail. Look at Super Bowl commercials. The ones that stick with people aren't the ones with the biggest celebrity endorsements or the highest budgets. They're the ones that tell the best stories. Think about Apple's 1984 commercial. It didn't even show the product, but it created an unforgettable narrative about breaking free from conformity. It made people feel something. Nike's best ads don't just feature athletes. They show struggle, triumph, and personal transformation. They don't sell shoes. They sell the story of greatness. Even in the world of content marketing, the same rule applies. The New York Times and the Wall Street Journal don't attract millions of paying subscribers by being boring. Their best articles hook you with compelling leads, provocative questions, or shocking statistics. If they started every piece with, "We conducted research and found," no one would read past the first sentence. Instead, they grab your attention with something intriguing. Just like your ads should. This principle is why viral content works. Look at the most shared videos and articles online. They don't just present information, they package it in a way that sparks curiosity, emotion, or controversy. BuzzFeed built an empire on this, mastering headlines that make you need to click, "You won't believe what happens next," or 10 secrets airlines don't want you to know. While some may dismiss these as clickbait, the underlying psychology is sound. People crave stories, surprises, and hidden insights. They want to be entertained. If your ad doesn't provide that, they'll scroll right past it. Never assume people care about your ad. They don't. It's your job to make them care. Inject curiosity, use storytelling, give people a reason to keep reading. Find the unexpected angle, the surprising fact, the human story behind your product. Be bold, be different, and most of all, never be boring. If you can't make your ad as interesting as the best content out there, you're wasting your time and your money. Lesson 8. Brand reputation is everything. Great brands don't chase trends, they build trust. They stand for something clear, consistent, and unshakable. David Ogilvy believed that brand reputation wasn't just a byproduct of advertising, it was the foundation of long-term success. Consistency in messaging creates legendary brands. A brand is not a logo, a slogan, or a product. It is a promise. And that promise must be kept relentlessly over time, or it loses its power. The companies that endure, Coca-Cola, IBM, Mercedes, understand this. They don't reinvent themselves every few years to follow trends. They define their core identity and reinforce it until it is unshakable in the minds of consumers. Ogilvy spent decades working with the same clients because he focused on long-term positioning rather than chasing short-term wins. He knew that real brands don't constantly pivot to stay relevant. They establish relevance through unwavering clarity. Coca-Cola has been selling the same core message for over a century: happiness, refreshment, and togetherness. Their ads, whether in the 1950s or today, reinforce the same emotional experience. Compare that to Pepsi, which constantly rebrands, overhauls its logo, and shifts its messaging. Every few years, Pepsi tries to reinvent itself, sometimes chasing youth culture, sometimes nostalgia, sometimes activism with disastrous results, like the Kendall Jenner fiasco. The result? Pepsi lacks a clear identity. While Coca-Cola remains timeless, The importance of brand reputation extends beyond soft drinks. Look at Apple. From the very beginning, Steve Jobs positioned Apple as the company that empowers creative minds. Their products are not just computers or phones. They are tools for artists, innovators, and rule breakers. This positioning hasn't changed in over 40 years. Whether they are selling the Macintosh in 1984 or the iPhone in 2024, the message is the same. Think different. Apple's consistency has built trust. When people buy an Apple product, they aren't just buying technology, they are buying into an identity. That's why Apple customers are loyal. Now compare this to struggling brands that chase every new trend in desperation. Look at Gap. Once a powerhouse in fashion retail, Gap lost its way by trying to be everything to everyone. In 2010, they even attempted a massive logo redesign, thinking it would modernize their brand. The backlash was immediate and brutal. Customers didn't recognize the new logo, didn't relate to it, and didn't trust it. Within a week, Gap scrapped the redesign and reverted to the original logo. But the damage was done. Consumers saw them as directionless. Their brand had lost credibility. This is what happens when a company forgets what it stands for. Even in the automotive industry, this principle holds true. Mercedes-Benz has never wavered from its core message: luxury, precision, and engineering excellence. The brand doesn't suddenly try to market itself as a budget-friendly option. It doesn't chase fleeting design trends that dilute its legacy. Because of this, Mercedes has remained synonymous with status and quality for over a century. Compare that to companies that constantly reposition themselves, like Cadillac, which spent decades swinging between being a luxury brand, a performance brand, and an aging icon trying to stay cool. The inconsistency has confused consumers, and Cadillac has struggled to regain its former dominance. Brand reputation is not just about what a company says, it's about what customers believe. Tesla doesn't need traditional advertising because its brand reputation is so powerful. The name itself carries weight. Elon Musk positioned Tesla as the future of transportation, and he has reinforced that message with every product launch, tweet, and innovation. People trust Tesla not because of flashy commercials, but because of its unwavering brand identity. If your message changes too often, customers won't remember you. Worse, they won't trust you. Every time you chase a new trend, you dilute your brand's meaning. The strongest brands are not built on constant reinvention. They are built on consistency. Find your brand's core identity and stick to it. Become known for something and never waver. If you don't control your brand's reputation, the market will decide it for you, and once trust is lost, it's nearly impossible to regain. Lesson 9. Price and perception. People don't buy products, they buy perceptions. Every purchase decision is a psychological equation, and price is one of the strongest signals of value. David Ogilvy understood that pricing isn't just about covering costs or competing on affordability, it's about brand positioning. A high price creates an expectation of quality. A low price raises suspicion. This is why luxury brands never discount. The moment you slash your price, you send a silent message. This isn't as valuable as we once claimed. Ogilvy warned against discounting because it erodes perception. He advised premium brands to reinforce their high status rather than chasing mass appeal. When he worked with Dove, he didn't position it as just another soap. He positioned it as a premium beauty bar, elevating its perceived value. Dove wasn't competing with budget soaps. It was competing with skincare. This simple shift in perception transformed it into a brand admired by millions. Compare this to brands that constantly run promotions, discounting their products in an endless cycle of price cutting. They train their customers to wait for deals. They devalue their own brand until no one wants to pay full price. This principle extends far beyond beauty products. Look at Apple. They never discount their flagship products. When was the last time you saw an iPhone on sale? Apple doesn't compete on price. It competes on perception. The brand positions itself as exclusive, high quality, and worth every dollar. Customers don't just buy Apple products. They buy into the status, the ecosystem, the experience. Meanwhile, brands like Dell and HP constantly run promotions, slashing prices to attract customers. The result? Their products are seen as commodities, interchangeable and disposable. Apple, by maintaining pricing discipline, holds onto its premium reputation and commands loyalty. Luxury brands understand this better than anyone. Rolex, Hermes, Louis Vuitton. None of these brands participate in discounting. Instead, they reinforce their exclusivity through controlled pricing, limited availability, and scarcity. Louis Vuitton would rather burn unsold stock than discount it, because they know perception is everything. Compare that to struggling mid-tier fashion brands that try to position themselves as premium, but then run desperate sales every few weeks. Once a brand trains its customers to expect discounts, full-price sales collapse. Even industries outside of retail and fashion follow this rule. Look at Tesla. Unlike traditional car manufacturers that rely on dealer incentives and seasonal promotions, Tesla has controlled pricing from day one. There's no Tesla year-end clearance event. There are no dealership markups, no limited time rebates. The price is the price. This pricing consistency reinforces the brand's identity, premium, innovative, and aspirational. Contrast that with General Motors or Ford, where constant rebates, financing offers, and trade-in bonuses dilute their perceived value. A Tesla buyer feels like they're investing in the future. A Chevy buyer feels like they're getting a discount. That difference in perception is everything. Pricing psychology is not new. In Predictably Irrational, behavioral economist Dan Ariely proved how consumers equate price with quality, even when the product is identical. In one experiment, participants were given 2 bottles of wine, one labeled as expensive, the other as cheap. They overwhelmingly rated the expensive one as superior, even though both were the same wine. This effect is why high-end restaurants set their wine list with an ultra-expensive bottle at the top. It makes everything else seem more reasonably priced. The same principle applies to every industry. If you price yourself too low, people assume your product isn't worth much. Discounting is a race to the bottom. Once you start, you can't stop. Companies that rely on constant price cuts become trapped, forcing themselves to cut costs, reduce quality, and devalue their brand just to survive. JCPenney learned this lesson the hard way. When their CEO attempted to remove sales and implement everyday low pricing, customers revolted. Why? Because JCPenney had trained its shoppers to expect discounts. Without the thrill of a sale, they lost interest. Meanwhile, brands like Supreme take the opposite approach. Limited supply, premium pricing, and zero discounting. The result? Insane demand and cult-like loyalty. If you sell cheap, you'll always struggle. Instead, build a brand people admire and charge accordingly. Don't be the brand that's always on sale. Be the brand people aspire to own. If you don't control your pricing, you don't control your brand perception. Price with confidence, deliver value, and never apologize for charging what you're worth. Lesson 10. Be ruthless about results. Advertising is not an art form. It's salesmanship. The only metric that matters is effectiveness. If an ad doesn't sell, it has failed. No amount of creativity, prestige, or industry awards can justify an ad that doesn't drive revenue. David Ogilvy had no patience for agencies that prioritize cleverness over conversion. He didn't believe in creativity for its own sake. He believed in advertising that produced results. Ogilvy built his empire on measurable success. He didn't guess which ads worked. He tested them. He ran A/B tests before the term was even popular, comparing headlines, offers, and layouts to determine what delivered the highest response. If an ad performed poorly, he didn't defend it, didn't justify it, didn't make excuses. He killed it. Meanwhile, agencies that relied on subjective opinions, gut feelings, and artistic expression without measuring real impact consistently failed their clients. Look at Amazon. Jeff Bezos built a trillion-dollar empire by applying this same principle to every aspect of the business. Every product page, every ad, every call to action is relentlessly tested for maximum conversion. Amazon doesn't care about aesthetics unless it improves performance. If a headline converts 2% better, it stays. If a button color increases sales by even a fraction, it changes instantly. Contrast this with companies that spend millions on branding exercises with no measurable return. They focus on making ads look good, not making them work. That's why they fail. History proves that businesses that obsess over data and results outperform those that operate on instinct. In the early 20th century, Claude Hopkins revolutionized advertising with a scientific approach. He didn't rely on guesswork. He tested, measured, and refined. He famously wrote in Scientific Advertising, "The only purpose of advertising is to make sales. It is profitable or unprofitable according to its actual sales." Ogilvy absorbed this philosophy and turned it into a global strategy. Today, the most successful digital advertisers follow the same path. Facebook, Google, and every dominant online platform run thousands of experiments daily. They optimize relentlessly, making small adjustments based on hard numbers. Meanwhile, most businesses still make decisions based on gut feelings. They pour millions into ad campaigns designed by committees more concerned with aesthetics than impact. They approve ads because they feel right rather than because they are proven to work. This is why traditional advertising agencies are struggling. The era of unchecked creativity is over. The future belongs to those who can prove their ads work. Tesla doesn't run traditional ads, but their direct-to-consumer marketing strategy is built entirely on measurable impact. Every announcement, every product launch, and every piece of content is designed for maximum engagement and conversion. Elon Musk doesn't waste time on vague branding exercises. He creates urgency, demand, and direct response, whether through viral tweets, live product unveilings, or limited-time offers. Tesla's approach is designed to produce results, not just impressions. The entertainment industry follows this rule as well. Hollywood doesn't greenlight movies based on artistic vision alone. They test concepts with focus groups, analyze box office trends, and adjust marketing based on early audience reactions. Netflix's recommendation engine doesn't rely on what critics think. It uses viewer data to optimize engagement. Every time you get an email suggesting a new show, it's because Netflix has tested and proven that similar users responded to that exact message. This is ruthless, data-driven marketing in action. You must adopt the same mindset. If something doesn't sell, kill it. If something works, double down. Never let personal preference override data. It doesn't matter what you like. It doesn't matter what wins awards. The only thing that matters is whether your ad converts. Every headline, every image, every offer should be tested, analyzed, and optimized. Run A/B tests. Track response rates. Cut what underperforms and amplify what succeeds. Advertising is not about being clever, artistic, or popular. It's about driving sales. Be ruthless. Conclusion: David Ogilvy's lessons are timeless because human psychology doesn't change. People still respond to clarity, research, and compelling storytelling. Advertising is not about art. It's about persuasion. If you want to succeed, you must focus on results, test everything, and never waste time on campaigns that don't sell. Ogilvy built billion-dollar brands by following these principles. And you can too. Read the full book, apply the lessons, and never forget the core truth. Advertising that doesn't sell is worthless. The end.